And so in this lived experience, the frequency of being bound is a frequency that feels like a victim to life. And in a way, the discomfort of that frequency is like a pressure that is constantly pushing us to discover freedom from the frequency of feeling like a victim to life, feeling like life is hard, feeling powerless and helpless and hopeless to change things. And yet that pressure of discomfort in itself is grace, right? We all know this. It's a grace, because that pressure itself is the invitation, is the impetus for change to happen, to be willing and open to allow change to happen. In a way, the victim wants change, but doesn't want to change, we could say, right? And we could say that the one that has the courage and the spark to be free wants to change, even though that is at times uncomfortable and has us really have to meet and go through those edges. And as we come to a willingness to change and to allow change to happen, we start to touch into frequencies of our being that are the dormant codes of what we are truly here for. And we discover that as we start to open and connect to the courage, the evolutionary impulse that is wired in us, that we have managed to find our way into a freedom from, that we also start to realize that we are here to be the change, and that we are here to embody a frequency that has the power to uplift and support the shifting of human consciousness in a very profound way. And this is where the play of the life shifts from being my life and all about me to being one with the glory, and then to realizing that this life is a life that is one flow, that is here in service to itself, that none of this is personal. And so what we are embodying and what we are opening to, we realize that every moment of our lived experience is a pure devotion of life to itself, of wholeness to its own integrity. And in a way, this is when life starts to feel very potent and profound. I remember, I've shared this, I think before, a friend shared with me a little cartoon of who wants to change, and everybody in the room puts their hands up. Sorry, who wants change? Everybody puts their hands up. Who wants to change? A few people put their hands up. Who wants to be the change, lead the change? And the room empties, right? As evolution happens, it's a way of discovering what we are wired for. We're all uniquely wired, and there's an incredible potency that we're not choosing, we're not thinking about, we're not deciding. It's truly the evolutionary impulse of consciousness and its maturity within us, that we recognize that what we're here for, we're alive for it, we're up for it in the biggest way, right? And when we discover that we are up for it in the biggest way, life starts to get interesting. we start to feel the possibility and potentiality of what this life is about. And we start to open to divine initiation and upgrades and recalibrations that equip us for being this living reality, right? That this lived experience is not about a human navigating life and trying to be successful. It's about discovering that we are entirely powerful when we are one with God and glory. That in a way, let's say that our focus is constantly being honed to realize that we are life living itself. And this is a fully embodying moment to moment thing in our lived experience. That it can't be a part-time, it can't be well, I want this bit and I don't want that bit, and I want the adventure, but I don't want to live it in every day, you know? It's like, and it's not about how that happens. It's about the yes of the heart. That is what we're speaking of. And the yes of the heart is present in and with the life in every moment, and realizes that everything that is happening in the life is an opportunity and a possibility for some kind of growth and evolution, and a deepening into being one with the one, realizing our beingness, realizing that there is one being, and realizing that being the being, and opening to the intelligence of life, to be the flow of the intelligence of life. And let's say, as we open to be the being the being is an intimate knowing of our true nature. It's a connection to source. And that knowing is the flow of life. We could say that knowing is the frequency of our lived experience. The depth of that knowing, the depth of the sincerity of the yes, is the frequency of the lived experience that offers us the constant possibility to meet life from a place of reverence and gratitude. And even when it feels challenging, to realize, well, this is happening in order for me to meet myself more deeply. This is happening for me to discover where there's reaction, where there is stress, where there is upset. It's a deep messaging of my own consciousness. It's not happening to me. And it's not about trying to escape this. It's not about trying to find a route to escape myself. It's about fully embracing what life is and what I'm being given. And in a way, it's escaping from that victim frequency that says, you know, somehow this life is wrong. This is not what I want. This is not what how I want this life to be. It's recognizing that I'm creating this, and it's really through self-responsibility that we connect to divine responsibility. We connect to being one with Creator. When we connect to Source, we connect to the power of being one with Creator, and realizing that we are creating our life and our lived experience. And we are in a constant invitation for evolution, for change, for upgrading. And so if we meet a place where that evolutionary impulse is calling us into the fire, we might find that we feel like, oh, I don't know if I want to go into that fire. And it might not come in those terms. It might just feel like I just want to stay as I am, right? Which is totally fine, because that evolutionary impulse, it only acts as a driver for the life when the wiring is ready, mature, refined for that evolution to happen. And there's so many dimensions of this lived experience, so many dimensions of this lived experience that are unseen, right? And the more that we come into this evolution, and more that we connect to that feeling of change and allowing the recalibrations and saying yes courageously, because we can somehow feel that life is calling us into itself. Life is calling us to be here with a purpose that we might not even know what that is. We generally won't know what that is, but we can feel an aliveness that is calling us to say yes and to step in and to be the evolution of human consciousness and to take our place in the flow of life as the intelligence and continue to open and discover more and more refined realms of this lived experience. So just in this moment, let's just pause for a moment and just notice what is happening in your nervous system. Notice what is enlivened, what is activated, right? As we join in this field of presence, the words themselves are a transmission of silent grace. There's nothing to understand or give meaning to. It's just the receiving, and the field itself, the intelligence itself that we are all made of, it just starts to recalibrate itself. The field itself starts to pick up the mental noise and the static of the field, magnetize itself, and just start to settle itself out. Literally this happening, this just starts to happen. The mental noise just is drawn to its true nature, drawn into the resonance of remembrance. And so as we rest here, we just start to cohere as a field. The intelligence that we are made of starts to align and come alive. And it starts to align and cohere itself, unify itself. And the sense of joining as one field is an opening to the recognition that we are one field of silent presence. And in this frequency, things just start to settle and soften and open. So just to be present with what is happening in your nervous system, to feel the body, the heart. The great glorious thing is that as we come to the presence of now and we open to the timeless being, we open to eternal glory, the frequency of the eternal God and glory. As we align and attune with this frequency, it's as if we connect with the light that starts to saturate us, right? It starts to just pour into us because we're open and we're receptive. We leave behind the frequency of past and the energy frequencies of memory and being connected to story and narrative. We leave the dance of the play of opposites, the play of cause and effect, and looking to a future that is born out of a past where we're creating from discordant and limited frequencies a new future experience which is also limited and tangled into the same frequencies of limitation and lack. And we come to the now, where we open to the power and presence of God and glory. We open to the presence of the infinite eternal. We open to the light that is divine and pure and untainted. We open to the love that is perfect and without condition. And as we open in this way, we start to receive the most incredible flowing frequencies that download into our system and activate and enliven the intelligence that we are, that starts to bring a recognition. It starts to bring an aliveness and an online, brings us online in a deeper truth of who we are. And we may feel this as an aliveness. We may feel this as knowing. We may also feel it as just a deep, silent peace, stillness and presence, like a rootedness, an anchor into the ground of being. And here the flow of intelligence starts to enliven, the flow of consciousness starts to invite the nervous system that feels like my nervous system, that could be feeling entangled into the collective fear and anxiety and stress, the collective doubt and shame and guilt, the sense of separation and division. That nervous system starts to, instead of being entangled and buzzing with anxiety, it starts to regulate and anchor itself into the frequency of now, into the frequency of deep-rooted presence in the unmoving, unchanging, awake, aware field. So as these words come, they are not inviting imagination or visualization. They are inviting the intelligence that we are made of into an activation, a natural recognition of what is actually true in this moment, instead of a thoughtful belief about a narrative of this moment that is rooted in past, and then creating this moment out of lack, limitation, and perpetuating the belief in separation. So the intelligence starts to come alive, and we discover more of a sense of rootedness, of quiet, of calm, the gentleness and softness of just being here. We're not trying to stop the mind or push the mind away. Everything is welcome here. Everything is welcome here. There's a simplicity to grace that doesn't, of course, divide the moment, but actually softens the edges of protection, softens the conditioning, picks up the static and reorganizes and recalibrates the discordant frequency patterns of consciousness and brings them into alignment, brings them into coherence. What incredible grace. Just to allow an anchoring, a rooting in the knowing of yourself, just in this moment, just in this moment. This moment is everything. It is everything. It is all there is. Nothing else to know or think about or wonder about. Just this moment, being yourself, rooted and anchored into the peace and simplicity of just being, open to the discovery, the grand and simple initiation that is the natural alignment with the divine. Coherence with the divine initiates our system. It upgrades the operating system. It upgrades the light body systems. It activates and opens dormant codes of life. And in that brings online an awakening of consciousness into the unified field, and brings online greater possibility for the lived experience. It invites us into self-responsibility, where we realize that I am not a victim to life, that I am one with Creator, and in this moment creation dissolves back into Creator. We start to open to be one with nature, true nature. As we drop into the stillness and the silence, into the rootedness, opening to the light, the transmission of grace, and the yes of the heart is a permission for the divine to recalibrate and bring us into a natural alignment that deepens our knowing, softens the edges and boundaries of protection, and roots us into a deeper sense of being here now. So we are opening to the sense of being the expanded field, opening to be the awareness. And as we open to this field, we are creating connections that then start to enter into the body. And so we speak of life being the means for embodiment. And the way that life is the means for embodiment is that what stirs us in life is showing us the places that are held in protection or in the shadow of unconscious frequencies. And it's calling forward those energies, those frequencies, to be met in the nervous system, to be met in consciousness, so that the discordant is being called forward to meet the light for illumination, recalibration, transmutation, and divine alchemy to happen, right? That everything that we think of as discordant, as fear, separation, division, great emotion, trauma, upset, when seen in the light, it's discovered that it's all made of the same essence. And then the freedom is not a process in time. The freedom is an immediate alchemical shifting of what feels like suffering and deep holding patterns to reveal the light, the essence frequency, that everything is made of the same substance. And we could say this is true healing. And it's not a process in time, it's an immediate alchemical shift, an immediate transmutation that isn't about processing story and narrative. It's about feeling the energy and being so present with the energy while being open to the frequency of eternal God and glory, that the frequency of the eternal light saturates our whole system multidimensionally and upgrades, revitalizes, and alchemizes the belief that we have in a story, a belief that we have in separation, shame, guilt, lack. The belief that we are holding has the potent power in the light to alchemize in the fire. Up in smoke, literally, right? The mind doesn't want to believe this because the mind itself is the victim frequency, right? The mind itself is very committed to time and space and holding that story of brokenness, of woundedness. So of course the mind is going to be skeptical and the mind is going to be resistant. The mind is going to say, oh, I don't believe that. Sounds like some kind of weird magic, right? Yeah, it's a kind of magic, but it's not weird. It's actually reality. It's actually the truth of who we are, what we are. It's the power of divine grace. And it's the power that we have when we are open to the intelligence and grace of life. The victim frequency, that sense of separation, wants to stay entangled. It wants to stay in the story of me. It wants to stay. And of course, there's an innocence to that because the protection can feel so deep. But what if we can just feel within our wiring that what we are speaking of is a frequency of truth? And that instead of questioning or needing some kind of scientific proof or context, theory, or understanding, we just feel the frequency of what feels resonant as truth. And we let that be the power of how communication is happening in our consciousness. And we allow that power of recognition to bring online a deeper sense of intuitive knowing, a deeper sense of being one with the intelligence of life, a deeper sense of knowing that the essence of all is one, that there is only one power, and that when we cohere with that power, anything is possible, way beyond what we could ever possibly imagine. We enter the realm, the field of the miraculous, and then we have to decide, are we willing to be open to the miraculous, or are we firmly committed to the non-miraculous, right? We have to decide. We're kind of brought to an initiatory edge where life will say, beloved, you can stay a victim. You can live out the rest of this life in that frequency. But here, right at the edge, are you willing, ready, courageous? Is the call of your heart strong enough to leave the cocoon and actually fly, right? In this moment, you will feel in your heart without any question what is true for you. And there is no judgment of whether there's a feeling of holding back, because that's just good information, right? Just good information. Because wherever we are in this life, we're all in a journey. Life itself is the journey of self-realization for every single being. No one is here with a special mission, and no one is here without that being the truth. The whole experience of human life is the evolution of human consciousness. It's just that the density of the collective consciousness hasn't all fully realized that yet. So where we do realize that, we are in an incredibly graced invitation where life is alive in us as a spark of recognition, in a way to come into the frequency field of being a seeker, is grace itself. And so when we receive that invitation, we know that our wiring, it may feel like the wiring is saying, I am a seeker. I'm seeking for God. I'm seeking for the kingdom. I'm seeking for truth. I'm seeking for love. I'm seeking for awakening, enlightenment, for freedom, for wholeness. But the great glorious truth is that when that impulse is alive, on a certain level, we've already found it. The journey in the external is a wild goose chase, right? But it will continue to pull us in until our heart is pure and our devotion is pure. It will continue to pull us in until it pulls us inside and we realize that the keys to the kingdom are inside our very own heart. And the impulse and the spark to be a seeker is also the fulfillment. We could say the longing is the fulfillment. And in a way, when we realize that the key to the kingdom is inside our very own heart, that we have already touched wholeness, we have already touched the deep knowing, and that the continuation of the adventure is an adventure within. It's into the realms of intimacy with our very own self, our very own heart, our very own consciousness, and into the realms of God and glory and discovering what the divine truly is. That it is our own wholeness, that there is no division, that our belonging is already a certainty, and that the journey into ourself is where we find true power, it's where we find freedom, it's where we find the wholeness and the love that we are longing for. The journey in the external world will continue to be a wild goose chase, and it will continue to be a game of snakes and ladders. It will continue to give us ups, and it will continue to have us slide down into the depths of feeling that victim frequency, despair, unsupported, uncared for, unloved, unseen, that we're not getting what we want. But until we realize that it's only when we go within, it's only inside that we meet the true devotion. It's only inside that we can meet the truth of what Guru, what light, what grace, what God truly is. It's only within. Everything external is pointing us within. And at some point in the adventure, we realize that we can keep chasing and chasing in the external, but in a way that is a chasing our own tail. It's trying to get away from ourselves. When we realize that chasing the external, it's like we can chase it and we can chase it, but wherever you go, there you are, as they say, right? Wisdom indeed. And when you chase and you find, oh, I'm meeting the same things, the same themes, the same feelings. Wherever I go, here I am. And it's when we enter the I am and we enter our own heart that we discover the only place that we will find resolve is when we allow all of who we are to be allowed to be present here. It's when we discover that right here, right now, I am connected to God, to the glory, to the presence, to Guru, to grace. Right now, the keys to the kingdom are in my own heart. When my heart merges with the heart. And according to our wiring, we will have many ways of this appearing and feeling alive in our life. Our unique wiring will give a unique experience and adventure to discover this. But the connection to the one heart is a connection of pure devotion. It's a connection of one-pointedness. It's a connection of saying, this is all that I want. This is all that I am here for. It's the meeting of the lover with the beloved. the disciple with Guru, the child with the divine, holy grace of the mother, right? It's the meeting point of the one that feels to be divided, discovering a sense of feeling like belonging, like connection, like knowing. And that pull is a devotion that is so pure, but it's not an external devotion. It's an internal devotion. It's a devotion to the discovery that will carry us into freedom. So when we rest here, we meet ourselves. We meet what feels to be like wholeness, the divine. We meet it as a frequency that saturates us, that guides us, that supports us, that knows us, that loves us, that cares for us. And then this frequency is the frequency that creates the lived experience as a journey. We are always supported, we are always guided. But the knowing of that is inside us. It's a frequency, it's an attunement, it's a receptivity, it's an openness to receive the grace of love in the heart, to receive the grace of infinite grace, and to find ourselves rooted in the yes of the heart, in the knowing that is present when we are still and quiet and resting. And life will present the shifts, the changes, the experience that is necessary to see through the illusion of separation, the delusion of the mind, but not in a way that pushes away, a way that includes it all with kindness and care, with compassion, softness, a deep and profound receptivity that allows every single part to be here and to come into a deep and natural coherence. So just resting here and receiving, noticing how you are feeling, what is happening in your nervous system, in your body. Where do you find yourself? Taking a few nice, long, slow, deep, gentle breaths just to support the integration. feeling yourself as embodied presence. The grace and the glory is as we open to the light, as we open to discover a vibrant sense of being, a sense of what we are one with, the flow of life, the intelligence of life. It is coming alive in ourselves. Yes, it is a sense of I am everywhere, unbounded and infinite. Yes, I am eternal. I am a subtler intelligence than just the body. And yet in this human lived experience, the body too is recalibrated to be an instrument of life, of light. So that the lived experience is the way that the light, the love, gets to the surface of life. In a way, we are being honed to be the instrument of grace, to be a living flow of love, of grace. That we come to know this. We come to be the knowing as a frequency. And as we root this and ground this, we start to discover more deeply what life is all about. We start to embrace the adventure in deeper and deeper, more subtle ways.